Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Vaterra Ascender Unimog project. Now in the last video, if you watched all the way to the end, I showed a little bit of information about what I'm going to turn this thing into and how. If you didn't see that, what I've got in front of me laid all out on the bench here is a number of the Cad renderings that I've created after I modeled up exactly what I wanted to get done for this project. Now, again, I modeled this truck up very roughly as far as the chassis goes, some of the major components like the motor, transmission area, transfer case, and the cab. Now, after getting that done, I kind of started throwing some lines together in my CAD software. I use just a basic 3D modeling software. Just about anything will do the same thing. Then after I modeled up what I wanted the tube work to look like, I go in there and I do some specific cuts to make sure that the tubes are done in a way that I can bend easily in the shop. After that, I then separate out every single tube from that model. And what I do is I create CAD or templates that I can then use to bend up every bar on the chassis. So each one of these things is exactly to scale, 1-to-1 of what my every single tube on this truck needs to be. To actually bend it for this chassis, I'm going to be using this 1/8" solid rod. Now this is a smaller rod. Typically I'll use a 3/16, but at the truck this size, it is going to be a smaller truck in general, so the scale of it for a Unimog would probably be somewhat close for 1/8" rod. But that's what we're going to use anyway because it's also going to be lighter. And since I'm going to compete with this truck, I'm going to be a little bit minimalistic on my tube work just to save weight up high and just really get the bare minimum of the look that I'm going for to try and get this thing out on the rocks. So what I want to do today is I'm going to cover just some of the basics of what I'm going to start fabricating. We're going to go in the shop, I'm going to start bending up some tubes, showing you how I'm using the template, and then go from there. I do have an in-depth video on exactly how I do the entire process as far as the templates and bending and then welding or soldering or brazing, all those things. So if you have specific questions on how to fabricate, you can go check out that video first and see if that answers your questions. This one's just kind of to show the build process of what I'm going to get done for this truck, just to show you guys what's going to go into the entire project. But with that said, we're going to take all this stuff and we're going to head into the actual shop, start bending some stuff up, and do a little bit of welding tonight.
First thing we're going to do is throw down our template. Then I'm going to use my BAC Industries rod bender to start my initial bends on some pieces of 1/8" cold rolled steel. This is solid rod. Then I'm going to check it against the template, making note to see that I don't go too far. I'll keep readjusting, as you'll see here, until I get it just right. After I do finally get the bend just right, I'll make a mark on it where I need to start the second bend. This is one of the only pieces in this chassis that actually has 2 bends or more. This one total has 4 bends, the 2 at the top and then 2 midway down the cab, as you can see there. Then I'll begin to line up the additional pieces. There's one crossbar here, so I'm going to mark where they need to line up. Then I'll drop it in there so that when I weld this, I know exactly where to line those up, just to make sure everything stays nice and square. Here I'm using my Razor Weld 160p TIG machine. I've been running this thing for a little while now and having really good luck with it. I started out with a TIG that was closer to the Razor Weld 110, and that is a lift TIG, a little bit more basic and more affordable. Here I'm tacking that upper roll bar area to portions of the bed that I had also constructed off camera. Now I'm going to move on to the shock mounts. Here I'm trying to size up which die to use exactly for my BA Industries rod bender. This one seems to be the best fit, so I'll load that into my bender first by slipping it over that center peg and then throwing it back on. These benders come with 4 or 5 different sizes of die. For the tightest bends you actually don't use any, and then for the larger ones you just slip them on as you saw me do here. Now again, I'm going to check the bends against my template. Needs to be adjusted a little bit further, so bend it once more, check it again. Then I will mark the tubes to be cut to length. As far as what I'm using to cut these rods to length, this is a simple electric cutoff wheel type thing. It's very similar to the air cutoff wheels, but again electric. Now for my rear fenders, I'm using my ring roller, and it just makes it easy to make long curved pieces. Here I'm actually checking to check the radius, then you tighten that screw or loosen it a little bit more, and it will actually decrease the size of the radius to tighten things up just a little bit further. After you run it through there a few times, again checking it to the template, making sure that it matches. Once it does, those fenders are ready to go. Then just mark the other pieces and I'll weld everything up. That is the basics of what I've done.
All right, guys, it was a productive night down here. I pretty much got all of the base tube work done. From here, I can kind of decide exactly how everything else is going to go, and then I can add my bracing and mounting situations, all those different types of things that I want to make sure that I incorporate. I still have to do an interior cage inside of that body to make sure that it'll support the interior as well as the body itself, and then some accessories like a light bar across the windshield and things like that. Yet left to do is a front bumper, and I'll tie that all into that front cage work most likely. But as you can see here, it's pretty much, it came out just like my rendering, or I had planned anyway. Now I don't have things like shock mounting tabs and things like that. I simply zip tied my my shocks to that mount there. The body is actually just taped on as well, and not holding all that well. But the like I said, the most of it is exactly like I thought it would come out, and I'm pretty happy with that. There's still a lot of work left with the details and the finishing and all that. That's where most of the work with a chassis like this comes in. So this part took me, a handful of hours tonight, probably 3.5, 4 hours so far, and I've got something that I'm pretty happy with, and I don't think I could have done it nearly this fast without having those templates. Having these templates really comes in handy. There's a lot of cut and burn marks and things like that on them. Lots of times I'll clamp the tubes down and weld right on top of the paper quickly, and then make sure I get everything put out. But everything came out great, and so far I don't think I'm going to have to go back to these templates at all. That is pretty much all of the work that I'd put into them. That's been accomplished, and everything came out to dimension and square and things like that, or square as I think I can get it. But from here I've got a lot of things to incorporate, like tabs to mount this thing to the chassis, as I don't think I'm going to weld it directly to it on this one. But that is all I think I'm going to get done for tonight. Still lots more to do, of course, and with that, we'll see you guys on the next one.